الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهداه إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. This is lesson number 2 of our commentary on the book of fasting from Bulugh al Maram من أدلة الأحكام. That was written by Imam Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullah tabaraka wa ta'ala. And we've reached to hadith number, actually it differs, the hadith differ from a book to another, but anyway, we've reached to where they speak about how to prove that Ramadan had entered. I mean, that the month is now Ramadan. How do we prove that? So I'm going to read the hadith and then comment on it. The hadith says, وعن ابن عمر رضي الله تعالى عنهما قال تراءى الناس الهلال فأخبرت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أني رأيته فصام وأمر الناس بصيامه. رواه أبو داود وصححه الحاكم وابن حبان. Narrated Ibn Umar, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam tried to sight the new moon. So I informed the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam that I had seen it. So he fasted and commanded the people to fast. Abu Dawood reported it, and Hakim and Ibn Hibban graded it sahih, authentic. So here, this hadith is an authentic hadith, and it has several narrations, and Ibn Hazm rahimahullah and the Dhahabi and Hafiz ibn Hajar, all of them agreed that it's an authentic hadith. So this hadith is an authentic hadith where Ibn Umar radiyallahu anhu, Ibn Umar is the elder son of Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu, and he says that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam told people to go and sight the moon. Actually, using the word moon, it's better to use the word croissant, because the moon actually is the full moon. And the croissant is the beginning. The word hilal is not the qamar. The qamar, it's the full moon. Hilal is the croissant, so it's the beginning of the moon. Maybe in English they don't pay attention a lot to this differentiation, the difference between the moon and the croissant, but it means a lot in the Quran and in Islam. So what do we derive from this hadith? This hadith seems that the Prophet ﷺ accepted the sight of only one person, who was Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. So he says that I saw the moon, or I saw the croissant. So the Prophet ﷺ, when I witnessed that I saw it, he ordered everybody to fast next day. So it means that the information of one person is accepted. Now this is information. This is actually, they don't consider it as witness. That's why there is no difference between male and female in this. When you go and you say, I saw, it's like an information. An information does not, in informing, you don't differentiate between male and female. Unlike when you witness on some specific thing, the witness of the male is not like the witness of the female. Now, is the witness of one person accepted, or at least we have to have two persons? Many scholars say that the witness of one person in informing that Ramadan has entered, many scholars say that one is enough. But he has to be Muslim, and he has to be a just person, trustworthy person. Now, others like the Malikis, now this is the opinion of the Hanbalis and the Shafi'is and others. The Malikis say no. You have to have two witnesses. And they went back to a hadith that is narrated by An-Nasa'i, by Abdurrahman ibn Zayd bin Khattab. He says that I sat down with the companions of the Prophet, of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I asked them, and they told me that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, fast when you see it. That means when you see the moon. And break your fast when you see it. But when it's cloudy and you can't see it, so continue sha'ban 30 days. Except if two witnesses witnessed the moon. So this means that the Prophet ﷺ says that you have to have two witnesses. And only one is not enough. But the others say that this narration of Ibn Umar is so clear that the Prophet ﷺ accepted only one witness. And the second hadith that we're going to speak about proves that as well, that the Prophet ﷺ accepted the witness of only one person without searching for somebody else to witness with him, to support his side. And these guys say, who are the Hanabila and the others, Hanabila and Shafi'is and others, they say that because fasting is very dangerous, we accept only one when he says that I saw the moon of Ramadan. But in all other months, we don't accept except two witnesses. So it's an exception for only citing, or for citing only the entrance of Ramadan. You don't implement that for other months, and the same thing is not implemented in breaking fasting. So the Eid al-Fitr, and sighting the moon of Shawwal is not accepted except by two witnesses. So this is their opinion. Now the others would say, like the Malikis and others, they would say actually to differentiate between the entrance of Ramadan and the entrance of other months, you have to have a strong evidence to say that. Now, this hadith of Ibn Umar, he didn't say at all that no one else witnessed except me. So, it's just understood by the story, but not everything that is only understood can be stronger than the words of the Prophet ﷺ, where he says that if and so continue Ramadan, so continue fasting Sha'ban, continue Sha'ban until two witnesses witness that they sighted the moon, they saw the moon. So actually, I think that's the opinion of the Malikis and the others is more stronger. Why? Because to fast and to ask millions of people to fast, you have to have a strong evidence. And many times there are countries that said that tomorrow is Ramadan by some sites of some Bedouins here and there, and they are not trustworthy, or they might not even they haven't seen the moon, and they just say we saw it. So the evidence is not strong, and this causes lots of problems every year between Muslims. These guys say we're fasting today, the others say no, we didn't see the moon. The moon is impossible to be seen in that place, in that era, in that time, etc. All these things. Okay, so anyway, the other hadith is more clear than this hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ says, وعن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما أن أعرابيا جاء إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال إني رأيت الهلال فقال أتشهد أن لا إله إلا الله قال نعم قال أتشهد أن محمد رسول الله قال نعم قال فأذن في الناس يا بلال أن يصوموا غدا رواه الخمسة وصححه ابن خزيمة وابن حبان ورجح النسائي إرساله. It says here, narrated Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, a Bedouin came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, I have seen the new moon, or Ramadan. He asked, do you testify that nothing is worthy of worship except Allah? He replied, yes. He then asked, do you testify that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Allah's messenger? He replied, yes. He then said, Bilal, announce to the people that they should fast tomorrow. Reported by Khamsa, the five narrators. Ibn Khamsa, I said that they are Muslim and the four, no, not Muslim, no. They are Ahmad and the four narrators of the books of Sunnah, Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, Nisa, Ibn Majah. This is a term of Al-Hafidh ibn Hajar in his book. Ibn Khuzayma and Ibn Hibban graded it Sahih, authentic. And Nasa'i held that the stronger view is that it is mursal, mislink after a tabi'i. Okay, this is now an argument that has to do with hadith. Is this narration authentic or it's not authentic? Now, the hadith actually, it seems that Ibn Abbas narrates it by the Prophet ﷺ, and he's telling us the story. And Ibn Khuzayma says, and Ibn Hibban, who is his student, Ibn Khuzayma is Imam Abu Bakr, Muhammad ibn Ishaq ibn Khuzayma, as one of the greatest, An-Naysaburi. He was in Nishapur, which is now in Iran, northern Iran. and he was one of the greatest scholars of hadith and the scholars of sunnah, and he has his sahih, authentic book. But scholars say that his precondition in authenticity is not so strict. So that's why many times he says that this hadith is authentic, but other scholars don't agree with him. And the same thing is applied with his students, Ibn Hibban. Ibn Hibban Abu Hatim, Ibn Hibban al-Busti. He's originally from Bust, which is now in Afghanistan. And he has his great book, which is called Sahih Ibn Hibban, the authentic book of Ibn Hibban. But he has the same problem, that his precondition in authenticity is a bit, it's not strict. Many times he says that this hadith is authentic because he considers a lot of narrators as trustworthy just because they are from the tabi'een, or if they are close to the era of the Prophet ﷺ, or there is no one that said anything bad about them. Or so his book of thiqat, he has a book called Thiqat, that means the book of trustworthy people. Now the strange thing is that Ibn Hibban is considered as one of the scholars that are easy to say that this hadith is authentic, but on the other side, he has a book called Al-Majruhun, Kitab al-Majruhin, that means the untrustworthy people that were injured. But injured, that means figuratively. The scholars of hadith use this word. They say this guy is injured. That means he's figuratively accused to be either a liar or either something else, another type of acquisition, that he doesn't memorize properly, he forgets, he narrates from people who are untrustworthy. A lot of problems that make the hadith not that make the narration not accepted. So what is the problem in this hadith now? An-Nasa'i, who is one of the greatest scholars of hadith, An-Nasa'i, Abu Abdurrahman, Ahmad ibn Abdurrahman, An-Nasa'i, Ahmad ibn Shu'aib, An-Nasa'i, he is originally from Nasa. Nasa now is in Turkmenistan. And all of these areas were full of great scholars of hadith. And all of these scholars that I mentioned, their names are Persian. They are Persian. So Nasa'i was one of the greatest scholars of hadith. And when he says something is authentic or something is not authentic, he is more accepted than others. So he says that this hadith is not narrated by Ibn Abbas. It's only his servant Ikrimah, which was a scholar actually. He's the one that said that the Prophet ﷺ said so and so. And this is the same what Imam al-Daraqutni says. So this hadith actually is not an authentic hadith. This hadith is not an authentic hadith. And even shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah says the same thing. And Shaykh al-Albani is now, he made a study on the hadith, and he says that it's not an authentic hadith. It's weak. Because it's mursal. What does mursal mean? That means the tabi'i directly says that the Prophet ﷺ did so and so or said so and so. So it's not authentic that way. So this is the same. Abu Dawood says many people say that Ikrimah narrated this hadith without mentioning Ibn Abbas and Tirmidhi says the same thing. The majority of the students of Ibn Simak, they narrate it by Ikrimah to the Prophet ﷺ directly. Anyway, this is not a big deal actually, because this hadith has the same meaning of the hadith of Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. This hadith, even if we say that it's not authentic, but this hadith is more clear than the hadith that Ibn Umar, that the Prophet ﷺ, when this Bedouin witnessed, he told him, are you Muslim? Do you say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah? So when he says yes, he said yes. He didn't ask him about his trustworthy. Pay attention. He did not ask him about his trustworthy. So he didn't tell him, are you, or does anybody know this guy? Is this guy trustworthy? He didn't ask him about that. So this means that, is this guy trustworthy or he's not trustworthy? Scholars say that he didn't ask him about that because all of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ are considered as trustworthy people. We know in Mustalah Hadith that all of, and the creed of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that all of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ are trustworthy. But actually, this is not a very clear opinion to say that. How can you say that the Prophet ﷺ didn't ask him because all of the companions are trustworthy? Well, he could be a hypocrite. He could be anything else. Actually, this is not. So this is not clear. So we can say that because the Malikis and others say he has to be trustworthy. And even the Hanbalis say that. Everybody says that. Everybody says that the guy that witnessed that he saw the moon, he has to be a trustworthy person. If he's not trustworthy, how are we going to believe him? We can't accept any witness. Anybody just says, okay, I saw the moon. We say, okay, you saw the moon. Okay, let us fast tomorrow. Or else it's going to be a corrupted witness. It's going to be a corrupted witness. So actually, this hadith is not clear in this. Maybe he knew he's trustworthy. If we consider this hadith as an authentic hadith, we can say that he knew that he's a trustworthy person in another way. Maybe this hadith doesn't enlighten or doesn't speak about this specific thing, but we can derive that from all other hadith, even the verses of the Quran that say that any witness has to be a trustworthy person. You can't just take a witness from anybody, whatever he is. Okay? So the main thing, the main idea from these two hadith is that we have to be sure that tomorrow is Ramadan. And any kind of information that makes us know that, it's considered. Now the question is, this is my right hand. I drank with my right hand, so this the picture or the image is flipped over. The main idea, brothers and sisters, is that if we knew that the month had entered, so everybody has to fast. This is the opinion of the Hanafis, Malikis, and Hanbalis. The Shafi'is, they have an opinion that agrees about that, but the most accepted opinion in the Shafi'i madhab is that every country has its own sites. Now the question is, what do we mean by every country has its own site? Do we mean every republic and kingdom? Do we mean every country that has its borders? What do we mean by that? Now, the people of France or Spain or Britain, does every country there has to see its own moon? The same thing. The people of Canada, United States, Mexico, does every country has to see its own moon? Or are we speaking about even something that is less than that? So every village and city has to cite its own moon? That's impossible. Our nation is one nation in the world. You can't say that the people of Paris are not allowed to accept the site of the people of Marseille. The same thing. You can't say that the people of London are not allowed to accept the site of the people of Wales. It's not something that is logic. The same thing to say in our Arabic countries. So in ancient days, they didn't have the way to know that the moon had entered unless it takes some time and some days. But this was in the dark ages of the Islamic era. But in the beginning of the Islamic era, you know how they used to know that? The information comes from Morocco to Egypt in less than one day. How come? How come when they wanted to have an information, they go quickly lightning on the mountains. They put a light on the mountains, fire or something like that. The fire goes to, so the other mountain sees the fire. So it goes quickly, like the electricity, when it goes. So in one day it reaches to Alexandria, and everybody knows that there's an information. For example, an enemy came, or Ramadan entered, or whatever, anything like that. But in the Dark Ages, all of these things, the last 4 centuries, things change a lot. But in the beginning, that's how they used to do that. Nowadays, we can know that the moon has been sighted in so and so place directly, or by WhatsApp, by anything. Everybody could know it in 5 minutes or less than that. That now the moon had been seen in so and so place, and everybody would fast tomorrow. It's not a big. That's why Al-Imam ibn Abd al-Barr, rahimahullah, says in Al-Tamheed that all our scholars, that means the Malikis, and a lot of scholars, say that we have to fast if the moon is seen between Andalusia and Khurasan, Persia or Afghanistan. That was the Islamic land in those days. So that means that if the moon is seen in any place, everybody has to fast. Now someone could ask a question and say, how are we going to trust these states that sometimes we know that or these countries that sometimes we know that some of them can play in these things? And politics goes a lot in these things. Every country wants to say, well, I have my entity and I'm the only one that can, I saw the moon. The other says I didn't see the moon. And we know that some leaders years ago, they used to claim that they saw the moon before everybody. So they asked everybody to fast, and actually the moon is not seen. Like what used to happen in a country, Northern Africa, and there were scholars that didn't accept that sight. They say that's impossible. And it happened in other days that people go and witness, and they don't accept their witness because the country doesn't want to have Ramadan tomorrow in a way or another, because politically it doesn't suit them. So how are we going to accept that? How are we going to believe these countries? The answer is to say that when the majority of Muslims fast, we fast. So if we go and listen to the news or search for who's fasting tomorrow, we're gonna see that majority of countries are fasting tomorrow. So that means those are the majority of Muslims. So we are part of those Muslims. We just fast, and that is for everybody in the world. Everybody in the world that has tomorrow the same day, he has to fast that day. Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala a'lam. And any other opinion is not uh, a logical opinion, actually. To say that every country has its own site, that's impossible to say that. To say that every state that has the same lines, it fasts. So you're going to have part of a country fasting, another part is not fasting. And that's impossible as well. To say any other opinion, it's not accepted. It's not accepted, actually. And we know that our nation, our Islamic nation, is one nation, and we are not allowed to say that وَأَنَّ هَذِهِ أُمَّتُكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً وَأَنَا رَبُّكُمْ فَاعْبُدُونَ. So this is a one nation, and this we have one God, one Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and one nation, and all of us are brothers. And what concerns my brother in India, in Australia, in the United States, in Europe, in South Africa, North Africa, everywhere in the world, concerns me as well. Because we are one body. Like the Prophet says, that Muslims are like one body. When any part of it feels a pin, all of the body feels the pin. Okay. Now we finished all what has to do with sighting the moon. All it has to do with sighting the moon. Now we finished it. So, to just compile this chapter, we say that we have to go and sight the moon in the last day of Sha'ban, 30 of Sha'ban, or 29 of Sha'ban, because it might be 29 days or 30 days. So if tomorrow is 30 or 1, we have to sight the moon. Now, if only one trustworthy Muslim person sees the moon, no matter he's male or female, that sight is accepted by the Hanbalis and the Shafi'is, but it's not accepted by the Malikis and the Hanafis. So, therefore, if we choose the other opinion, which is more strict, to say the Maliki opinion, it's more stricter and less dangerous, because when you see when two trustworthy Muslims sight the moon, you are that makes you more comfortable than only one person. Allahu Alam, he's sighted, or he's just lying, or who is he, or maybe he didn't sight it properly. So we choose the Maliki opinion because it's more supported by authentic ahadith, and because all of the narrations that say that the Prophet ﷺ accepted the one person to sight the moon is one of it is not authentic. The other one is it can have several meanings, so it's not something that is specific. Now, if the moon is seen in any place, everybody has to fast, because our nation is one nation. These borders and these stuff we don't pay attention to those things, and therefore, how are we going to implement this opinion? How are we going to implement this opinion? That means if anybody in the West or in the East hears that Muslims have fasted, and they say that tomorrow is Ramadan, so everybody has to fast that day. Wallahu tabaraka wa ta'ala a'lam. Okay. The Prophet ﷺ says here, وعن حفصة أم المؤمنين رضي الله عنها أن النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم قال: من لم يبيت الصيام قبل الفجر فلا صيام له. رواه الخمسة، ومال الترمذي والنسائي إلى ترجيح وقفه، وصححه مرفوعا ابن خزيمة وابن حبان، وللدارقطني: لا صيام لمن لم يفرضه من الليل. Okay, what does this mean? Narrated Hafsa radiallahu anha, mother of the believers. She was daughter of Umar ibn Khattab, and she is the wife of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So all of the wives of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam are called the mothers of the believers. All of them are our mothers. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "The fast of one who does not make intention to fast before dawn is not accepted." Reported by Al-Khamsa, At-Tirmidhi and Nasa'i are inclining towards the opinion that it is mawquf, a saying of a companion, which means Hafsa is the one who said that. It's not the Prophet ﷺ who says that. Ibn Khuzaymah and Ibn Hibban authenticated it is marfu'. That means it's part attributed to the Prophet ﷺ. So here there's a completion there. وَلِلدَّارَقُطْنِيِّ لَا صِيَامَ لِمَنْ لَمْ يَفْرُضْهُ مِنَ اللَّيْلِ. لا صيام لمن لم يفرضه من الليل. الدارقطني has there is no fast to the one who does not make the intention to fast during the night. There is no fast for the one who does not make the intention to fast during the night. Okay, therefore before we speak about what do we derive from this hadith, we have to solve the problem of the authenticity. Because this problem of authenticity is going to give us the differences between scholars about this meaning, the meaning of this hadith. So look here. This hadith is narrated by Ahmad, والنسائي, Abu Dawood, At-Tirmidhi, Ibn Khuzaymah. These are the five. Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah. These are five. But the Tirmidhi and An-Nasa'i, they said that this is actually not from the words of the Prophet ﷺ. It's from the words of Hafsa radiyallahu anha. And Imam Ahmad narrated the hadith by a chain that all of the narrators of it are trustworthy people. And all of them are from the narrators of Al-Bukhari and Muslim, except Ibn Lahi'a. But Ibn Lahi'a here, although he is a weak person, because his books got burned and his memory, he used to depend on those books, so his memory changed. But it is said that if four Abdullah scholars, Abdullah ibn Mubarak, Abdullah ibn Wahb, Abdullah ibn Yazid Muqri, and fourth one, if they narrated the hadith by Ibn Lahiya, it's considered as an authentic hadith. Now, Ibn Hazm and Al-Khattabi and Abdul Haqq Al-Andalusi, Al-Ishbili, and Ibn al-Jawzi and Shawkani, all of them said that this is accepted to the Prophet ﷺ. It's narrated to the Prophet ﷺ. And Al-Bayhaqi and Al-Daraqutni said the narrators are all of them trustworthy. And Ibn Hazm and Al-Hakim said the same thing. So actually, we can say that the majority of scholars say that this hadith is authentic. Some scholars say it's Hassan. It's not Sahih nor weak. It's Hassan. Hadithun Hassan. So the most accepted opinion that this hadith is an accepted hadith. Okay? And it's the same opinion of Al-Hafiz al-Hajar and the Shaykh al-Albani in our days. So we say that this hadith is an authentic hadith. Now, what do we derive from this hadith? We derive from this hadith that anyone who wants to fast, he has to put in his heart an intention that he's fasting tomorrow. So anybody who is going to fast, he has to put in his intention that he's going to fast tomorrow. This is the opinion of Malikis, Shafi'is, Hanbalis. All of them say that he has to put in his intention that he's going to fast tomorrow. But some scholars differentiate between the obligatory fast, like fasting Ramadan, fasting an oath, or others, and they differentiate between that and a voluntarily fast. For example, you want to fast any day, you want to fast Mondays, you want to fast, etc. Any day that is not obligatory to fast it. So then they differentiate, and I'm going to speak about that in the next hadith now we're going to speak about. So let us just now agree about the obligatory fasting, Ramadan. You have to put in your hearts from after sunset, from al-ghurub, al-maghrib, until the dawn. In this time, in any time of it, if you put in your heart that you're going to fast tomorrow, that's it. Your fasting is accepted. Hanafis say no. You are not. There is no difference between fasting Ramadan or fasting a voluntarily fast. It's the same. You don't have to put it in your heart. Whenever. Why do you say that, oh Hanafis? They say this hadith is not authentic. It's not from the words of the Prophet ﷺ. It's the words of Hafsa radiallahu anha. So it's her opinion. And there are others who don't agree, who disagree with her. But the majority say, no, actually, it's, according to the great scholars, it's an authentic hadith. So the argument goes back to the authenticity. And they go saying again that the Prophet ﷺ, many times he entered his house, he asked his wives, is there anything to eat? They said, no, there's nothing to eat. So he says, okay, I'm fasting. So that means that he didn't put in his intention to fast. Then when he didn't find anything to eat, he fasted. This is their opinion. Now, that is another story we're going to speak about. Is that true? It's not true. Did he put in his intention to fast, or he didn't put in his intention to fast? That's another argument that we're going to speak about. So now, when we say that this hadith is authentic, according to what we said right now, this hadith is authentic. So, now the Malikis say, any fasting that has several days, you're going to fast, for example, you're going to fast 30 days, Ramadan, whole Ramadan. So you just put in your intention to fast whole Ramadan, as long as you didn't break it by traveling, by being sick, or any other excuse. So any fast that has several days, like for example, you have a penalty. You have a penalty because you killed or you committed any other crime, that there's a penalty on you to fast 2 months. So 2 months, you just make one intention in the beginning and it goes until it finishes 2 months. Or you made an oath to fast 1 week. So that's it. 1 week is enough. It goes to the whole week. Shafi'is and Hanbalis say no. You have to make an intention for every day. So the Malikis are more easy about that because they say it's only one intention for the whole month. Okay? Um, uh, okay. Now, the Hanafis, the Hanafis say that, look, Bukhari narrated that the Prophet ﷺ sent a man to call people in the day of Ashura, which was obligatory to fast in the beginning of Islam. In the beginning of Islam, it was obligatory to fast Ashura. When Allah Almighty ordered us to fast Ramadan, therefore it abrogated the fasting of Ashura, so Ashura became mustahab or preferable, and Ramadan became obligatory. That was in the second year of the immigration of the Prophet ﷺ. Second year of Hijrah. So the Prophet ﷺ sent somebody calling people, announcing them, anyone who ate so he has to fast tomorrow, and anyone who didn't eat, so he is not supposed to eat. So the Prophet ﷺ didn't tell them, go and fast that day again. He just said that they have to, and you know that these guys didn't know that that was Ramadan, or that was the day of Ashura. So they didn't have any intention about that. This is an opinion of the Hanafis. And others say, well, that's not so clear about that. And we can say even that Ramadan is not like Ashura anyway. Okay, Ramadan is not like Ashura anyway. And the Prophet ﷺ said a hadith that is a general hadith, where he says, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَى. All acts or all actions are by an intention, and everyone has the intention that he wants. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَى. So anybody has the intention of what he wants. So this is clear. Now, the hadith after that, when Aisha radiallahu anha قالت دخل علي النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ذات يوم فقال هل عندكم شيء؟ قلنا لا. قال فإني صائم. ثم أتانا يوما آخر فقلنا أهدي لنا حيث فقال أرني فلقد أصبحت صائما فأكل. رواه مسلم. Well, now this hadith is a hadith that is important. Narrated Aisha radiallahu anha, the Prophet ﷺ came to visit me one day and asked, do you have anything to eat? I said, no. He said, then I'm fasting. Then he came to me another day and I said, I had been given a present of some hais. Hais is a type of food that the Arabs used to eat. He said, show it to me. For I had began the day fasting. Then he ate. This is reported by Muslims. So this is an authentic hadith. What do we take from this hadith? What do we take from this hadith? We take from this hadith that actually two things are derived from this hadith. We can say that the Prophet ﷺ in the beginning, he entered his house and he asked his wife, is there anything to eat? She said no. He said, okay, I'm fasting. When he says I'm fasting, does he mean that I'm fasting because he was fasting and he put it as his intention to fast, or he says that I'm going to start fasting because there's nothing to be eaten? Now the Hanbalis and the Shafi'is and others say, well, this means that you are not supposed to put in your intention to fast in any voluntarily fasting. It's only for the obligatory fasts in Ramadan and the oaths and stuff like that. The Hanafis, they have their opinion, which is general, Ramadan or voluntarily fasting. The Malikis stick on their opinion. They say, no, you are not allowed to fast unless you put in your intention to fast. What do they say about this hadith? They say this hadith, he didn't say that I woke up not fasting. He says that is there anything to eat? And then he says, I'm fasting. That means he was fasting. But he desired something to eat, and he might break his fast on that food. So you see? So here he says, and this is actually more this is more supported by another hadith. This is supported by another hadith where he says that I was fasting. He says that I was fasting. Because there are some of this narrations, he says, Inni kuntu asbahtu sa'ima. Means I woke up fasting. So this doesn't mean that he wasn't fasting and then he decided to fast. Now, what proves the Maliki opinion? I'm not struck to the Malikis. I'm not supporting always the Malikis because I like to support the Malikis. No. If the hadith is so clear, I'm with the hadith. I follow the Prophet ﷺ, not Imam Malik rahimahullah. But let us just discuss about this. He says here, now the Hanbalis and the Shafi'is say, you are allowed to wake up and decide just to eat. Some of them say, you are allowed to do that unless it's still not the afternoon. So from the morning to the afternoon, you have the right to, as long as you didn't eat breakfast, you didn't eat anything, or you didn't break your fast. Others say you have the whole day, whenever you want to decide that, as long as you still didn't eat, you put in your intention, now you're fasted, that's it. And you will take your reward for that. I think this is the opinion even for the Hanbalis. See, let me see. It's the opinion of the Hanbalis as well. Yes, the Hanbalis say you are allowed to fast before noon or afternoon. Whenever you put in your intention that you're fasting, it's considered as fasting. And I believe that the most accepted opinion is that you have to put in your intention that you are fasting, because the hadith that we mentioned before is general. It doesn't differentiate. لا صيام لمن لم يفرضه من الليل is general. It doesn't differentiate between obligatory fasting or voluntarily fasting. This is one. Second thing, are you allowed to break your fast if you are fasting voluntarily when you find anything to eat, when somebody tells you, invites you or whatever? Yes, this is according to this hadith, yes. And there's hadith that proves that, where the Prophet ﷺ says, الصائم والمتطوع أمير نفسي إن شاء صام وإن شاء أفطر. That means the voluntarily faster is the leader of himself. If he wants to continue fasting, he could continue fasting. if he wants to break his fast, he is allowed to break his fast. This is the opinion of the Hanbalis and the Shafi'is and others, but the Malikis here don't agree about that. They say as long as you decided to fast, you're not allowed to nullify your intention and change it, except in two cases. Except if one of your parents order you to break your fast, or your shaykh orders you to break your fast. Now the question here is, are your parents allowed to order you to do something that is haram? Is your shaykh allowed to order you to do something that is haram? No, of course. This means that the Malikis actually don't consider this as haram. They consider that as something that is, although they don't say that, they say it's forbidden, but they don't deal with it as a forbidden thing, because if something is forbidden, your parents cannot order you to do something that is forbidden. You see? So actually, I believe that the opinion of the Malikis is not so far from the opinion of the majority of the scholars. It's not so far from it. Anyway, the hadith is so clear that the Prophet ﷺ, and there's another hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, where his wives were fasting, and then when they found something delicious to eat, they broke their fast and they started eating it, and he didn't tell them anything. He didn't tell them that they did something that is forbidden or whatever. Okay? So this is this is so the Prophet ﷺ says, وعن سهل بن سعد الساعدي رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا يزال الناس بخير ما عجلوا الفطرة متفق عليه. وللترمذي من حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال قال الله عز وجل أحب عبادي إلي أعجلهم فطرا. أحب إلي عبادي إلي أعجلهم فطرا. He says here, narrated Sahl ibn Sa'd al-Sa'idi radiyallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the people will continue to be on the right path as long as they hasten it. They hasten in the breaking of the fast agreed upon, Bukhari and Muslim. At-Tirmidhi reports from the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu from the Prophet ﷺ, who said that Allah said, the most beloved to me of my slaves is the one who hastens most in breaking the fast. These narrations mention that we are supposed to break our fast the most earlier that we can, as long as we know that the sun had sighted. The sun has setted. It went. That means Maghrib had entered. But does that mean that you go breaking your fast before you were sure that it disappeared? No, you're not allowed to do that. Because as long as you're fasting, you have to be sure that you are allowed to break your fast. It's more easier when it's still you're still eating in the night and you're not sure that it's morning. You're not sure that the Fajr had called. Because there's a law that says that al-aslu baqa'u makan ala makan. The origin is that anything that is declared, it still goes on unless you are sure that it stopped. So it's night until you know that it's morning. It's morning until you know that it's night. That's the law. So you're not allowed to break your fast as long as you're not sure that the sun had disappeared. And it's not something to play, to gamble with, because this is your religion, this is fasting, this is one of the pillars of Islam. But when you know that it called, Maghrib had called, are you going to go and pray and then go and eat? No, you have to break your fast and then you can pray. Break your fast with one date or something like that, or drink water or anything, and then you pray and then come back and continue your eating. But don't eat, pray, and then go and eat. That is considered as against sunnah. And don't wait until it's night and you see the stars in the sky, because that is the way of the innovators, and that's how the Shia do. The Shia, they hear the adhan and they continue fasting until the night enters, and that's against the sunnah. So the way of the people of scriptures, like Jews and Christians, they keep on fasting until the night, and they start seeing the stars in the sky, and that's against the sunnah. So you have to follow the sunnah and don't wait. And on the other side, when you eat your suhoor in the night, don't eat it with your supper. No, keep it to the last of the night. The Prophet ﷺ and his companions used to eat before the dawn calls by a few minutes. We can say even until the dawn calls. So some scholars are against the sunnah when they ask you to stop eating before half an hour before the Fajr calls. They say, well, so that you won't make a mistake. Or that's not true. That's against the sunnah. You are allowed to eat as long as the Fajr didn't call. Okay? I think this is so clear now. The last thing. Okay. Okay, okay, I think this is enough for today, inshallah. And I wish, inshallah, we will see each other next week, bihawlillahi ta'ala. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer your questions and serve my brothers and sisters. وجزاكم الله خيرا. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.